Chase Thomas the Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of NFL Super Friends, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Also here, as he is each and every week, and 2 weeks removed from his San Francisco 49ers, coming up just short, but hey, Super Bowl favorites in 2025, and we'll get into the Niners and where they're at this offseason going into next year, but it's 49ers Hub's own Evan Sowards. Evan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm dead inside.
Good to hear it. We'll get into that and why that might be the case, but we're going to try and fix that on this very show because I think we can. And I think there's a lot of reason for optimism in 49er land, even if Evan doesn't feel as though that is the case at the moment. Also here, down there in Orlando, Florida, JP Acosta of SBNation.com. JP, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. 2 weeks removed from Vegas. I am very tired, but it was fun.
Very tired. What was your favorite part of Vegas?
I got to talk to Myles Garrett about anime, which was probably the coolest moment. I also got to talk to Jamal Williams about anime, which was very cool.
Dope.
There you go. I knew Jamal Williams because he did the Naruto thing in his wasn't that for Monday Night Football or something 2 years ago?
Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, that was it. I love it. And also, it seems like a big locker room guy. You got Jameis out here. Like, we're getting him a touchdown, even if it's running up the score. Also here of USA Today, the Pump Fake, Behind the Steel Curtain, Jarrett Bailey. Jarrett, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. A little bit dead inside too, like Evan, but just gearing up for Indy next week. I'm driving to the Combine actually, so that's going to be a time. I'm excited about that, but yeah, looking forward to next week. It's going to be busy. It's going to be fun.
There you go. JB, are you going to the Combine next week too?
No.
Okay.
Too quick of a turnaround for me.
Have y'all met in person, JP and Jarrett? Have y'all met in person?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were in Mobile last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Evan, have you met?
Staggering in person is JP Acosta, just a tall human being, much taller than I.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. JP, how tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay.
Which is really, really tough for me because you're stronger than me and taller, and I don't appreciate it.
I don't know, Evan. You're out here doing like 9,000 pounds and just complete your PR and every day I see on Instagram. You're getting
literally
up there, man.
nothing compared to what JP puts up. Just
I haven't seen JP. JP, we need the rival Instagram stories to daily compare. That would be cool. Like y'all have these rival.
It would literally just be JP coming in, benching 250 real quick and walking off. It's like
that actually was what I did one day over the summer. I was trying to max out on bench press just to see how far I had gotten, and I think the highest I got was 310.
Oh, fuck you!
And I was like, all right, I'm done.
Just to give you a frame of reference, Chase, I benched 225 once.
Mm-hmm.
And hurt my shoulder doing. I completed it, but ended up hurting my shoulder and wasn't able to bench like that for a long time. And have now just gotten back 2 years later.
I think the most I've ever put up was like 165 when I was like a junior in high school.
That's very respectable.
Yeah. So now,
I'm lifting some kind of weight.
Instagram
now, numbers don't matter, but I can move some weight. Many are saying
Instagram stories would be so different. Just be Evan and JP putting up weight, and then me posting me betting on Ross Chastain to win the Daytona 500, only for him to get spun out on the back straightaway on the last lap when he's about to take the lead. I was doing leaps for joy, and then gets spun out. Does not win the Daytona 500. I wish I was there. That's one.
Me personally,
I would love.
Me personally, I just wouldn't spin out.
Yeah, honestly,
think that, wouldn't you?
I just wouldn't.
I believe somebody from behind him clipped him. I can't remember who it was. I'm not a big NASCAR buff, but O to B at the Daytona 500 wearing my Dale Jarrett shirt, asking a cute blonde girl in cowgirl boots if she wants to shotgun a Busch Light with me. That is the dream.
You know what? I hope you get that one day, brother.
I do too.
It might happen. It might happen. Reach for the stars, Jarrett Bailey. Now that it's been 2 weeks, Evan, since we last recorded, and it was, hey, the Super Bowl happened, LVIII. You've had 2 weeks to think about it. Where are you at 2 weeks removed from the Super Bowl loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, sir?
You guys talked to me about before the Super Bowl, right? Did I not sound in that moment every single time like I was screaming internally, Patrick Mahomes is going to fucking do something and win this game?
Mhm.
Like everything I said, like they have the better team, blah, 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 but I don't know. Kind of, like it was inevitable. I mean, it was literally a continuation. Here's the most random metaphor I can make. Have you ever heard the saying that every Jason Statham movie is just, it's not The Beekeeper or Cranked or anything. It's just Jason Statham 1, Jason Statham 2.
Mm.
Yeah. Shout out to my friend Ian Carmel, who is a stand-up who used to do that in his routine. To me, this was not Super Bowl X whatever. This was just San Francisco 49ers lost number 7 or number 8 or whatever it's been in the last, however many years. It's the exact same thing every single time. They go into the season, they finish the season. It's like, oh, this is the best roster in the NFL, right? Brock Purdy all year long. Brock Purdy, new record, playing out of his mind. Number 1 ranking QBR efficiency, number 1 ranking in this, air yards, everything. Oh, everybody's healthy. The entire team's healthy. No injuries. We're ready to go. And it just didn't matter. It's Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, there's more to dive into. There's more to talk about. You could talk, about how Debo was strapped up all game long, couldn't separate for the life of him. You could talk about how Spagnuolo literally basically said as much and was like, I was never worried about Debo, basically is what I took from it, and that he was more worried. You could look at how George Kittle, 80% of the game, had 2 targets. I've been yelling about George Kittle not getting the ball enough on this podcast. I think as long as the podcast has been a thing, maybe. And he ended up with like 3 targets or something like that in the Super Bowl. They just don't want to get the ball to him. You could talk about how Brandon Ayuk was literally open the entire game and had 3 catches. What's to say? Patrick Mahomes did it again. He did it again. He won another Super Bowl. He's like let's just put the only way I can make sense of it is to say what Patrick Mahomes is. We watched Tom Brady get 7 Super Bowl rings, and I was like, that will never be beaten again. That is the greatest achievement. To this day, I don't think that will ever be beaten. But we all saw Tom Brady get 7 Super Bowls, and we were like, Tom Brady is the greatest football player of all time, undisputed. Patrick Mahomes has been in the league now for what, 6 years? 5 years?
6 years.
6 years? And like, we didn't even get to have like 2 years of that. Like, we didn't even get to have a little time period of being like, Tom Brady's the GOAT. Where now it's just immediately like, oh my God, look what Patrick Mahomes has done already. He's going to end up the greatest of all time. And
Maybe.
I mean,
brother,
I don't think so.
You
should bet against everybody passing Brady. What Brady will never happen again.
But I already said I don't think he's going to win 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But I do think he's going to be the greatest. There's no way that Patrick Mahomes doesn't win at least 1 more Super Bowl.
I think the Brady stuff, though, is like Brady's obviously had the best offenses. He's had the best team. He won in different ways. He evolved as a quarterback over 20 years. He won in every kind of way. He won in every kind of situation.
Mahomes is just more. He's just.
I think Mahomes' peak is obviously better than Brady, like the best version of Mahomes, but I don't think there's a path. Like, I think people have gone way too overboard with the Brady stuff.
I will push back on the fact that Tom Brady evolved over his career and Patrick Mahomes didn't. Patrick Mahomes has evolved from the quarterback in 2020 to the quarterback that he is now. They flipped that shit in like a year and a half. They traded Tyreek Hill and then immediately won 2 straight Super Bowls. That doesn't happen. I'm already making the argument that he is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play the game. That is,
I mean, it's the same thing of like, it's not even the same thing, but it's of the same mind of like LeBron and Michael, where it's like, you're looking at LeBron and you're like, what he's doing physically is never been done before. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now, where it's like, no, we've got many years ahead of us, but it's impossible to look at the body of work already and not go, oh my God,
Yeah.
And statistically, through their first 7 seasons, Patrick Mahomes is already at or past Brady in a lot of statistical categories.
Mhm.
It's not like this isn't like unfathomable that he can or is not the greatest quarterback of all time. The only thing Brady really has right now is the longevity, and you never know with Patrick Mahomes, and we'll see. But I actually think the Jordan comparison is interesting, and not because of like, oh, 6 rings, yada, yada, yada. Michael Jordan made every other player from that era a side character in the Michael Jordan story.
Mm.
You think about Charles Barkley, one of the greatest players of all time, 0 rings. You think of guys like John Stockton, no rings. Clyde Drexler was one of the greatest NBA players of all time and was relegated to second best shooting guard in that era behind Michael Jordan. Dominique Wilkins, like even Shaq had to go through those lumps because Jordan was there. You think about all the great quarterbacks that we're seeing right now that are ultimately footnotes in the Patrick Mahomes story. They are becoming the look who has Patrick Mahomes beaten. He's beaten all of these guys. So that's the comparison with Mahomes and Jordan. It's the fact that they've made all these great players around them in their era. They've turned them into footnotes.
And JP touched on how quick they flipped their offensive style after they traded Hill. I wrote about it for USA Today this past week, where they went from being, this bombs away, kill you with just a shotgun blast to your dome to death by 1,000 cuts, where Mahomes was, there was a little bit of an issue with it in 2021, where their defense wasn't good enough yet, and Mahomes still felt like he had to play hero ball, and it kind of fell apart a little bit. But even so, they turned it around quickly, and Mahomes became more of an efficient passer. He took the layups. He took it, okay, we'll take the 7-yard gains at a time rather than needing, a 30-yard pass every play. So just his transition from being, he obviously still has the ability to, nuke you over the top, but understanding that, okay, we can be efficient and march down the field rather than, the opposite 30-yard line being our red zone. I appreciate that so much because it takes a special talent to be able to just flip that style of thinking, your way of playing, your way of attacking, and they did it really quickly. And I think it was either Brett Veach or the owner at the parade who said, "This is what a down year looks like for the Kansas City Chiefs." And yeah, we thought that last year was going to be kind of a little bit of a rebuilding year. They won a Super Bowl. By week 9 this year, we're like, oh, okay, this was actually the down year where they'll be an early out and they win it again. So I don't know, man. In terms of the Brady stuff, we saw Brady win with Chris Hogan and Danny Amendola as his top receivers. We're seeing we just watched Mahomes win with Rashee Rice and then Richie James and Kadarius Toney, who was a healthy scratch for the Super Bowl. Sky Moore was also there. It's impressive, man. It's really, really impressive.
I mean, it's definitely 1-2, right? That's where we're at. No matter what, 1-2, I just think people who are crowning, it's it part of it's just younger. I think it's a younger generation too, where you you don't remember the 18-0 Patriots. You were a lot of folks who were talking about them and y'all were 10. The scary thing is
I still remember him.
18-1.
I mean, 18-1 is fine, but we were there. That team was Brady was. I mean, people I think remember Brady now. The younger generation remembers Brady as the nickel and diming, the 5-yard step over the middle is the Wes Welker, Amendola, the Gronk, the 2 tight end personnel.
The 07 year was bombs away.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that Brady had a crazy deep ball, and Brady used to be able to throw it wherever he wanted, all over the place, and just evolved. And then to win a title at your 40s the way Brady did, where you saw the drop off right after he leaves. I don't know. I think that's a big part of it too, and we'll see how Patrick Mahomes ages. But I don't know. I think it's okay to just be Mahomes is 2 right now. He's on his way if he keeps this up, but he's not better than Brady. It's just not a thing.
Hold on. Listen, first off, the point of this was not to talk about is Brady or Mahomes better. that literally prefaced the beginning of what I was talking about. Not about that. It's about looking at where Mahomes is already at in this short amount of time. He has a long career ahead of him. We don't need to get into that. But that's the point. Like, as a 49ers fan, you're sitting there, whether it's Tom Brady or it's Patrick Mahomes or it's Joe Montana, whatever it may be, you're watching your team that's supposed to have the best team, right? And you're going, this should have been me. And so I don't know, there's a lot of fans that were pissed off. I do think this is insane. I want to say this just because it needs to be said, because a lot of crazy people say it and it gets taken like whatever. The Kansas City Chiefs had the most holds in the NFL this year and went into the Super Bowl, didn't get called for a hold the entire game. Whatever. They also have never gotten called for a hold in any of the Super Bowls that they've had, except for I think one. Like, that's a frustrating stat, period. But when you're on the end of 2 Super Bowls against them, where you have Nick Bosa and he's getting held all game long and it never got called, that's really hard to
to be fair.
There's no being fair there.
The refs didn't call anything that entire game. They let them play up until the last 4 minutes of the game. There weren't a lot of penalties overall,
but there were a lot of holds, JP.
There weren't a lot of holds.
I've got a jump. I've got a cut. I got a little highlight tape. You want to see it?
If it's the one where every 49ers.
Okay. I understand where this is going. And we can talk about brass tacks over what's holding and what's not.
No, but hey, I know I've gone through this before. I'm well versed now on what is a hold, what isn't a hold. You see the Schwartz tweets talking about how this is fair game, et cetera, et cetera. You talk about the bad spin moves and how a bad spin move becomes fair game, yada, yada, yada. I get that. I'm not trying to use it as an excuse. And I don't want to be a 49ers fan saying, yeah, because the 49ers just couldn't win. They couldn't do it. They made more mistakes across the board. That was a mistake-ridden game. And I want to kill myself. Can I say that on a podcast?
No, Evan. Evan. You're okay. You've made it twice in this era. Kyle Shanahan, I mean, maybe the best endearment for Kyle Shanahan at this point in his coaching career is that he's in his mid-40s and he's in his Philadelphia Andy Reid era.
I don't want to be the Eagles.
You know what happened with Kyle with Andy Reid and the Eagles?
He left.
He got fired.
Yeah.
And then he went and got Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, so who is going to be Kyle Shanahan's Patrick Mahomes? Is it going to be one of the Mannings?
I can say this. Hey, look at me in my eyes. Jed York will not fire Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan shouldn't. We're not even close to being that in this scenario. Yeah.
But I'm saying, to your Andy Reid point, that will never happen. Kyle Shanahan's either going to win a Super Bowl with the 49ers or, to quote 50 Cent, die trying.
But don't you feel better when you see that the Niners open as the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl next year?
Chase,
thanks.
I will slap you through this camera. What do you mean? What is being favored? Do you know how many 49ers Super Bowls they played in that they were favored and lost?
The one 2 weeks ago they were favored.
Guess what? The one against the Chiefs before that in 2019 they were favored. No, it doesn't. All it shows is that it doesn't matter how good. Dog, they had the best offense in the NFL and they went and got Christian McCaffrey. They had the best defense in the NFL and got Javon Hargrave and Chase Young. They did so many things to make it work. They signed Randy Gregory, which I never thought they would sign a person like that. They signed Clelin Ferrell, which was and it ended up working out. They signed Clelin Ferrell, and that was a good signing. Can you imagine that? He was considered a bust with the Raiders. Everything went well.
He didn't run the 40, right? Wasn't that the whole thing with him? He didn't run.
We're not going into the Clelin Ferrell draft profile. My point is everything happened right for the 49ers. Literally, from 2019 till last year, all we ever heard from people is Jimmy G, They would have won. They would have won the Super Bowl if it wasn't for Jimmy G. How many times did you hear that from respected people? Mina Kimes is one of the smartest people I've ever seen in my entire life when it comes to football. And she was like, Jimmy G is so bad, they can't win with him. They just got the best quarterback play they have ever seen from the 49ers since Steve Young, and it wasn't enough.
But it's to your point, though, it's Patrick Mahomes, right, Jarrett? Like, it's like, I mean,
again, dude, that you think that Charles Barkley was saying, "Oh darn, it's Michael Jordan." You think Karl Malone and John Marino saying, "Oh darn, it's Michael Jordan." No.
Do I think privately they were saying that? Yes.
No, I think that privately they're doing exactly what Larry Bird did to Michael Jordan. You bitch, fuck you.
Yeah, I think so too. And plus, let me point this out too. In terms of the 49ers, we talk about, okay, they have Kyle Shanahan, this window's open. They don't have too many free agents to worry about this coming spring. Next year, though, Eric Armstead, Travarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, Brandon Ayuk, Talon Hufanga, Diamador Lenore. Like, you can't pay all of them. And you're going to have to find somebody to
no, absolutely. Yes, you can't. First off, let's not talk about we don't need to talk about that. The 49ers know how to reload better than any team in the NFL currently. I'm not worried about that. Their fullback is not going to go any. Like, you guys think for 1 second that Kyle Juszczyk, after the time he's had in San Francisco, won't take a fucking pay cut?
I do.
A fullback isn't making or breaking if they win a ring, though.
He has a lot of money.
I think it'll get interesting when they eventually have to pay Brock Purdy, which is going to come up. I think either
2 more years.
I think it's like next offseason.
Yeah, 2 more.
We'll see. Because he wasn't undrafted, they would have had to pay him this offseason if he was undrafted. But since he wasn't, it's next offseason. Whatever happens there, then now the clock really starts because you have to pay a quarterback. And depending on whether he's good or not next year, we'll see. I do think they're going to end up restructuring a lot of those deals to keep those guys. Panga's probably going to get restructured or extended. Ayuk is probably going to get extended. Armstead will probably do like a restructure or something.
Did you guys see what Sauce Gardner said about Ayuk? He said he quote tweeted Emmanuel Acho talking about Ayuk and said, Ayuk is the one wide receiver I see who gets open on the majority of the game, but doesn't get thrown the ball. And he can win in contested situations. So even if he's not wide open, he should get the opportunity to make a play on the ball instead of throwing it away. And that's also George Kittle. And they don't throw to either of them.
Brandon Ayuk is the Niners' best receiver.
Yeah. Do you know what Kyle Shanahan? Do you know what Kyle Shanahan? No, he's better than Alshon Jeffrey. He's absolutely better than
he
him.
is 100% better than Alshon Jeffrey.
Don't start with me. And also, Alshon Jeffrey's like career went like this and then down. Ayuk's is just continuing to go up. But no, Kyle Shanahan cares more about getting the most dynamic offensive weapons in the NFL to take defenders away so that he can throw to Juwan Jennings.
Oh, Arthur Smith sees you and calls very, very quickly, sir.
Well, I mean, Kyle
that's
actually
your problem now, Jarrett.
Kyle actually
that's not my problem anymore.
Kyle actually gets the ball to the people. But like it does seem like that. Like it's like Kyle's like, I will use these as distractions. No one will. I can't even remember.
Decoys.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Anyways,
hey, I know somebody who would love to throw to Brandon Ayuk.
Dog,
that's not. It's not.
He already has Stephon Diggs, and they couldn't get it.
Stephon Diggs is 31 and is.
How old was he when he first got there? When he was in his prime?
Like 27.
In his prime, literally in his prime, coming off of one of the most iconic playoff wins in the history of the sport.
That's a long time ago, man.
Yeah, dude.
Well, the final thing on the Niners that I want to ask about too. So it looks like Brandon Staley seems like he's going to be the DC.
That's what it looks like.
There's no good
What
answer.
do we make of the Steve Wilks firing? Was it justified for the bald knowers? Because I don't understand this. I have such a weird relationship, especially the college guys. I wonder if the college NFL guys have this same relationship where Wilks was really bad. Like, I watched Tennessee run for 500 yards in Columbia on that defensive line, and like Wilks got fired. This was like 3 years ago. I watched it happen. Like, Tennessee got him fired in Columbia with the Heupel offense. And then you see like the best of Steve Wilks in Carolina, and I don't really I don't really understand it. So for someone who knows ball significantly more than me, explain the Steve Wilks firing and
hold
whether or
on.
not it's justified like I'm five.
Before you go into the smart shit, which needs to be what we end that conversation on, let me just say, Kyle had context, right? Let's give context to the situation. Kyle had two people running the defense that he wanted to have run the last 2 years with D'Amico and then Saleh. So Wilks comes in and is basically told, run this defense to the best of your abilities. He didn't get a fair shot, sure, whatever. It wasn't a fin, but like 49ers fans knew within the first 8 weeks that this wasn't going to work. And I think that they made it work on sheer talent on the defense alone. Having Fred Warner is one of the best erasers, and then you have another Greenlaw and et cetera. But JP can go into that. But like we knew long before the Super Bowl that Steve Wilks was not the right person for the job.
So I don't think this is I don't think there's a black and white answer to any of this. I think there is like this very shaded gray of this. And like Evan said, Steve Wilks was running a defense that was not his. That is not the Steve Wilks kind of scheme base. Schematically, they were very much different from Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans. They played a lot of quarters, a lot of quarter half with with Ryans and Robert Saleh. A lot of cover 3 this year, which puts a lot more emphasis on the outside corners, who are the weakness of that Niners defense. The whole MO for the 49ers has been attack the outside. That's how you're able to beat them. I also think, like Evan said, the defense looked good statistically and looked good film-wise for most of the season because they're incredibly talented. When you stockpile first-round picks and hot and really talented players like the Niners do, you're going to look good. I also think there were rumors that like Kyle Shanahan called the defense or came up with a game plan for the defense in the Super Bowl, which makes a lot of sense because they flipped all their schematic tendencies on their head in the Super Bowl.
Would you say it worked?
It did for like
an offensive touchdown.
I mean, yeah, it did. It worked for like 55 minutes.
Which is so annoying in itself. Again,
like going back to the Mahomes thing, sometimes you're the 97, 98 Jazz. Like that's really like, it's tough. Like I don't really know what else to say to the 49ers. Like that's really tough. Like I don't know what else you could do.
But so what does this mean next though? Because now like the options, as a guy that wasn't excited about Steve Wilks, I'm certainly not excited about Brandon Staley.
Oh, Brandon Staley is not going to be good. I don't think he's going to be good. If you like giving up 6 yards of carry on the ground, then Brandon Staley is your guy.
Is there anybody that you think is actually a good, smart option?
I mean, the last time they promoted from within, going from Saleh to Ryans.
But they had Ryans.
I feel like this time it should be an internal hire. And if they don't do internal hire, I mean, you could pull from the Jets, go back to that tree if you wanted to. But right. I think the biggest thing is yes, the Niners defense played their best game against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs did not score a touchdown until like 4 minutes left in the third quarter.
Right.
So saying he was scapegoated, I understand why you would say that or why people would say that. But if you just look at the entirety of this season, there were ups and downs in the level of play and the schematics and the why behind the 49ers defense. And you could really tell that like there was something off. They weren't as unified. Right. It looked good because Fred Warner is the ultimate like Band-Aid in the middle of a defense, but something was off.
Well, and also too, like imagine if Kyle did come in and say, all right, enough is enough. We're changing the script for the entire defense for the Super Bowl. Like people are like, he got scapegoated. Like, no, if he already had to do that going into the biggest game of the year, he was already out.
Yeah.
And if he did change the script and they did that well for 4 quarters, what does that tell you?
You could tell there was a definite rift between Shanahan and Steve Wilks, which is why I just think they should promote from within. Like, get someone who, I mean, look.
Who's the Jets DC that they took with him? Is it Ulbrich?
Ulbrich, but I don't think Ulbrich would leave because I think he's close to getting a head coaching job. He was already the head coach at Senior Bowl down in Mobile. He's gotten rave reviews from everybody, and the defensive line play over there is phenomenal.
I would just get Steve Belichick from UW.
Again, I don't think he's hiring from outside the Shanahan ecosystem, which is why I don't think Bill Belichick would work at all.
Not Bill. I'm saying Steve.
I don't think Steve would do that because Jed Fish worked with Steve in New England. They're buddies. Like, you're not gonna like leave your boy after like 2 months of being on the job. But True. Bill is 100% not happening. That's not a good idea for either of those people.
I love the dream though. And 1 year of Bill and Kyle is coaching mercenaries.
Bill, they would not get along.
I don't know. It would either be the worst thing or the best thing in football.
They wouldn't get along. It would not work. I don't think those two would mesh together very well. They can be great coaches individually, but I think Kyle's gonna like want to do something like, hey, here's some suggestions. Bill's gonna punch him in the face. But I just think they need to promote from within.
Jarrett, flipping gears here a little bit. Should the Giants, now that there's some scuttlebutt on this front in terms of what the New York Giants are going to do with their interesting offseason, I was listening to Robert Mays in the Athletic Football Show today talk about like, should they get out ahead of the Daniel Jones stuff, cut their losses now, because they're gonna, if you're gonna move on next year, you might as well just move on now, just get ahead of it in terms of Daniel Jones. But the other part of it is Saquon Barkley, who it feels like this question comes up every offseason for the Giants, but productive when healthy last couple of years. I think that's just been the nature of the beast with Saquon in New York. But in your estimation, should the Giants and Saquon Barkley's camp work out something for both sides to stay in New York?
No, I just don't see the value for that for either side. Like, if you're Saquon Barkley, you want to go win. You're not doing that in New York right now. And if you're the Giants, like we had this conversation last year when we had, the issue with the running backs and getting paid and whatnot. Like, running backs today can't be the foundation on which a team is built off of. They have to be that final piece to an already good team that takes them over the top. The 49ers figured that out when Evan already pointed out when they were already a really good offense. You add Christian McCaffrey into that, oh my goodness, look what they can do. The New York Giants, much like teams before them, same thing with the Las Vegas Raiders, they were a bad team that had holes all over the place and took a running back in the first round when they needed so many other things. And the Giants right now need a lot of other things. Quarterback, wide receiver being two of the big ones. I just don't see the reasoning or any sort of why to that partnership. If Saquon wants to get paid, cool. But for a guy that can still be a difference maker and have the ability to go somewhere where he can win and be a difference maker, I don't see why he would want to go back. And for the Giants, like, you have so many other things. And as good as Saquon is, he's been there since 2018 and they haven't won anything with him. Like, again, great running backs should be the final pieces to great teams. They cannot be the foundation of which teams are built off of. So I don't see a reason to continue that partnership.
So I will say this. I think the NFL is schematically going to a trend where running the football and running backs will be will be important. The Christian McCaffrey comparison, I think, kind of works, but also Christian McCaffrey became the engine of that offense. Everything is funneled through Christian McCaffrey. The entire offense is built off of Christian McCaffrey. The pass that Trent McDuffie batted down was supposed to go to Christian McCaffrey. So, but to answer the question, Saquon should not go back to the Giants, but the Giants should try everything in their power to bring back Saquon Barkley because they're not getting rid of Daniel Jones right now. They can't. They don't have the wiggle room. They
can eat it. That's the whole thing. Is you could still draft somebody and move on and eat it this year. Because if you don't believe you're going to win anything with Daniel Jones this year, you can still get off of it and eat it now.
Well, I mean, the only solution there is to draft and start whoever you draft,
or draft and hope again.
Make him Matt Flynn.
They're picking at 6. They're not going to be in the range of quarterback. I don't.
Yes, they could be. 6?
They're
Doesn't
not
mean
gonna,
the guy will be good, but
they're
they
not
took
gonna get,
Daniel Jones at 6. Why can't they take
which
him?
is why they shouldn't do it again.
Listen,
Yeah.
whoever quarterback they take at 6 will be better than taking Daniel Jones there.
I don't know. I think
Daniel Jones was such a reach at that
there's
pick.
a cliff. There is a cliff after the Jaden Daniels. I think.
Don't you think there's a cliff after May?
I think there's a small gap,
Yeah.
but the gap between 2 and 3 is smaller than the gap between 3 and 4.
Who would you take? Who would you take at 6 that you think reasonably would be there for them at 6?
Like at quarterback?
Yeah.
I don't think Jaden Daniels falls, and if he does fall past 3, I think the Cardinals or even the Chargers at 5 probably trade out to a quarterback needy team.
Do you really think they trade out though?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I guess the Chargers might.
The Chargers can trade out because I think the people that they want will be there at like 9 or 10.
And they need to replenish the roster. I don't think the Cardinals
Yeah, I was
will.
gonna say, that's
really
a-
like
that's
Marvin
a-
Harrison.
I don't
they're
think the Cardinals
just gonna
will
sit.
because like Marvin Harrison is a
Yeah.
glove hand fit for the Cardinals. But I mean, you're looking at JJ McCarthy maybe, and I don't think JJ McCarthy is ready yet. I don't think that you're going to end up playing Daniel Jones again for a year because JJ McCarthy isn't ready to play football at the NFL level. Again, I just don't think there's any room to get out of the Daniel Jones contract. And I think if you're going to bring in a quarterback next year, it would really help to have Saquon Barkley as kind of the engine and focal point of that offense while adding a complement like a Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze to that offense. Like it, I get why, like, I get it, but I also think like it'd be in the Giants' best interest to re-sign Saquon. Saquon absolutely should not go back. I think honestly, I think it's done. I think the fact that the Giants didn't pay Saquon this offseason, Saquon was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna leave.
Do you guys think that Daniel Jones even has the opportunity to be a real starter anywhere?
No.
So
No.
why not?
I don't know.
Why do you think the Bears would be crazy to like
To do
Let's
what?
Send Justin Fields there? Is that what you're
send Justin Fields there, have them send over Daniel Jones to be the backup to Caleb? I think he's a good
weirder
backup.
things that have happened.
He's got some legs. He could throw the ball as a backup.
I mean, the
Mitch
Giants would be in a
Trubisky
much. I think that's honestly, I think that's where Mitch ends up being the backup, just because he'll go back to being with Brian Dable. But in terms of Justin Fields, I mean, I hadn't thought of that, but I mean, there's definitely worse places he could go. They need to get help for him though, because that's been his issue since being in Chicago. Is he hasn't had any help, and they don't have any reliable receivers right now. So if they're able to get somebody at 6, then cool. But again, that is a team that is both roster wise in a lot of trouble, and apparently staff wise and a lot of, I don't know if you guys read the Pat Leonard piece about a month ago about just the internal strife between Brian Dable and Wink Martindale and the entire staff. Like that just sounds like no fun to be there right now. So that's a mess of an organization.
Yeah.
I'm curious how it all unfolds. But you also, if you're the Giants organization, you have to get your ducks in a row. Like y'all need to be certain about which direction you're going, because look, Dabo, it's a big year for Brian Dable, and it feels like a make or break year. And you need to have ahead of time, like which way you think you're going with Brian Dable. And if you don't think you're leading with Brian Dable after this year, then you don't need to take a quarterback yet. You don't need to do a coaching change and all that. You might as well just ride it out with Dable, see what he can do with Daniel Jones, because he hitched his wagon, Daniel Jones too, and just do a clean break for next year and just plan the clean break all in one fell swoop. I think the Giants just have to get together, and the brain trust has to be on the same page about how they go about this, whether that's with Saquon, with Daniel Jones, with the coaching staff internally. But like, to me, this all screams that the reset comes next year, and you might as well just hang on to DJ and Saquon to sell tickets, and he's a fan favorite. It's not like he's going to cost you pick opportunity anyway. And if he wants to come back, then you make it happen. Because I'm sure he's the number one jersey sale guy.
I think by like week 8, we're talking about Brian Dable, if not being fired, getting pretty close to being fired. Yeah. That's going to be, that mid.
So don't take a quarterback now and have him go through that immediately as a rookie.
That's a good way to think about that. I would say.
Also, there's no good quarterback that's going to be there. Like, it's
No.
Yeah. Well, we also don't know if they will trade up. Like someone, I don't think it's going to be check. It's just going to be all chalk 1 through 3, and there's no trades, and they all 3 take quarterbacks. I would be surprised.
I could see New England going the route of like being like a throw in the dark teams, like Justin Fields. Sure, why not? I think that could be exciting.
I don't think they will because Gerard Mayo has spoken extensively about drafting the best player available at the most important position. Like he said that in his opening press conference. That screams take a quarterback at 3.
Sure.
Like I think Mac Jones is not good and will also be gone. They got to take a quarterback at 3. You cannot continue to go into whatever is going to be your next year with a new head coach and a dead weight quarterback or a
bad offensive line though. Not a lot of weapons. It's not a great situation for a rookie quarterback right now.
Sure.
But that's why this is not the Patriots are not a like get good quick team. They're going to it's going to take like this year and then the 2025 draft for them to get back offensively unless like they make a splash in free agency.
Which I don't see anybody lining up to go to New England.
No.
I mean, they have the second most cap space. They can.
I mean, yeah, sure. If they'll probably have to like overpay for some guys in order to convince them to go there rather than elsewhere. But I don't know, man. I think both of those are bad situations right now.
Evan, because you're gonna go soon, right? Or are you still hopping out in a second, or do you got more time?
Well, I gotta reasonably soon. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll throw it to you then, just in case. Evan, your Russell Wilson next team prediction. Is it Vegas? Who I'm kind of leaning Vegas as the next team for Russell.
I after they're hiring Rich Gangarola today, like I'm talking the Raiders might be the worst pick in the draft. Or the number 1 pick in the draft. Like the things that they have done this offseason scream terrible decisions. Rich Gangarello is one of the worst things to happen to the 49ers in a long time. And then he went to Kentucky and did absolutely terrible there. To bring him in as a offensive coordinator is insane.
Well, he's not an offensive coordinator, is he? I thought he was
quarterback's coach, I think.
Quarterback's coach, yeah.
Sorry. It's just, my point is the same position that he was at, right? Like he should be like an offensive assistant or quality, like something. I don't even know. Like, because where do you go from here? But like, he needs to like go be on a team like the Chiefs as like an assistant and just try again. But instead, he's going to get the position that he did so terribly, or the coaching position that he did so terribly in the NFL, again with a team that doesn't have near the scheme nor the quality or anything. So where does Russell Wilson end up? I don't care, because I think Russell Wilson is completely washed, and I think whatever team does get him will also be desperate. And I mean, the Broncos were desperate, and he came, and that was before he was fully washed. I think now he's really washed. So who's going to want him? Where could he end up that matters? He's not going to be a backup. Russell Wilson is a sociopath. Like, he's not going to be a backup. Does anyone raise your hand if you think Russell Wilson will willingly be backup? No. It's not going to happen.
I don't think so. Yeah.
So does he retire?
No.
Start his presidential campaign? Because there's not a lot of good candidates right now.
He should.
But the scariest thing about Russ, right, is the QB whisperer, the man who did so well with an aging quarterback in Drew Brees, the man who's just the QB guru, one of the QB gurus in the sport, cannot get off Russell Wilson fast enough. Like there's just not a bigger scare.
That was a bad fit for Russ.
But it's not
I think the Sean Payton hire screams Russ isn't going to be here after this past.
It's not only that. Russ has always been an annoying little douchebag, and the only saving grace for Russell Wilson was that he was very talented with his legs. He could make plays, and he still had a cannon of an arm that was very accurate. Most of that's gone now, so he's now just an annoying little douchebag. That's not even a bad word.
I think, and I hate it, but I think that Pittsburgh is definitely an option.
God, that would make me so sad for you.
I mean, I understand what the Steelers are going to do this offseason, and it's not going to make me happy. So I'm just kind of accepting it.
I feel like it's Tannehill for the Steelers.
Well, you know what? You know what? Honestly, the Steelers doing that, I feel like going from Trubisky to where we're at now is like you're driving 2 old Ford Tauruses, and it's just sad. And now they're like, this is like getting Russell Wilson is like getting the Mazda Miata. It's like you're trying to be cool. You're trying to like
souped up little. It's a little car. It's a very very little old like.
It's a midlife crisis mobile.
Okay,
you know what I mean. You're like trying to pretend you're buying something cool, but it's really just a piece of shit.
No, I think that Pittsburgh
not a sponsor.
I think that Pittsburgh and Vegas are the two like teams that would make the most sense. I don't think that any team makes sense because I don't think Russ is good, and I don't think he's going to bring anything of value. But yeah, I mean that would be a very Steelers move if they can get him for cheap.
There's not one team that makes sense. Maybe Tampa.
There's one team that makes sense.
Who is it?
The Atlanta Falcons.
No. We're not doing this. No, JP.
Listen, Zach Robinson was in Los Angeles when Baker Mayfield was there, rejuvenated his career, went to Tampa, Pro Bowler, playoff winning quarterback. The McVay offense is basically like rehab for quarterbacks. You run outside zone, you run play action, you run bootlegs, you don't have to read the whole field. Russ doesn't have to do anything full field read wise. You just get to roll out and throw it deep. Unless Atlanta just really, really just falls in love with Jaden Daniels and like trades up to 3 to try and get him, which I could see, but I also think again
there's a lot of JJ smoke at 8 for Atlanta right now.
I gotta tell you though, I don't think it's going to be Russ. I think it's going to be Kirk Cousins in Atlanta.
That would also be incredibly funny. I don't think Kirk's
I would
going
like
to
that.
Atlanta.
His wife's from Atlanta.
His wife, I was
going to
say,
I think, or Alfredo.
I don't think Kirk's going to Atlanta because I think Kirk is staying in Minnesota.
I don't think he stays in Minnesota.
I think Kirk was on pace to have a career year in a second year.
He was.
With Kevin O'Connell. I think he's going back. I want him to go back because I think.
Now here's the thing. I want Kirk to be a Steeler because he was on pace for 38 touchdowns and 5,000 yards, and I want that for myself. But I know how the Steelers operate, and they're not going to get the good quarterback. They're going to get the shit quarterback and think that they can win with the shit quarterback because they just won 10 games with the shit quarterback. But I digress. I think in terms of the offenses and whatnot, I think that's why Russell Wilson also is probably going to end up in Pittsburgh because, again, outside zone stuff with Artie Smith. He came from that LaFleur-ish tree where they utilize outside zone, reads off bootlegs. I'm dreading the fact that they're probably going to do that, or it's going to be Tannehill, somebody, either Tannehill because he has the Artie connection, Russell Wilson because the offense would be easy for him to run. I'm dreading it, but I do think that Pittsburgh is a real possibility, and I'm going to hate it so much, and it's going to be awful.
I think it's going to be Atlanta. I really do. I
don't think Future allows it.
That's the funniest part here.
I know. I just don't think he's allowed. I don't think he can handle it. The attention he'll get just from that alone, like he might get booed, like immediately. Future has a way higher approval rating in Atlanta than Russell Wilson.
Also, a bad Russell Wilson that could get ugly quick.
Yes,
which is exactly why the Falcons could probably go into the season thinking, "Hey, the Bucks just won this division at 8-9 and are probably going to lose Mike Evans."
Yeah,
the Saints are bad and are probably going to be playing Derek Carr again, who's also bad.
It might be a little bit better though with Clint Kubiak, right? Like they made some good offensive hires.
I don't think he's good. The Panthers are like 3 years away, maybe 5 years away.
R.I.P. Dave Canales.
This is it. This is the run. This is not the time to draft J.J. McCarthy and wait.
Well, I think they're going to try to do two things. I think they're going to draft a quarterback and also take a vet. Like that might just be Mac Jones. Like Mac Jones would not surprise me in Atlanta.
Oh God,
that is the worst bet. That's the worst bet I'd want to learn under as a rookie quarterback. probably.
I'm not
What
gonna
I
lie.
want is Kirk
You guys-
Cousins for 2 years and then take a quarterback at
I think-
8 or trade up.
You know
I
what?
think Kirk Cousins is
Why
going to
would it-
be what ultimately happens.
Hold on, real quick.
Why
Let's take
wouldn't
a
Minnesota do
moment.
that?
Hold on, take a moment. Do you guys know what you guys have been talking about for the last 20 minutes? And you probably don't even realize it. We've been literally like piecing out how the next season might be one of the worst NFL seasons that we've had. And like,
Wait,
I think it's
why?
gonna be great.
Why?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Miserable quarterbacking at a lot of teams.
You know what that
head
means?
coaches. I don't know. I think the bottom half of the
running the ball and real defense is back.
bottom half of the NFL is going to be very ugly.
I mean, it was bad this past year. The bottom like
Wait, what are you talking
15 to
about?
17 teams. This past NFL season was kind of mid because they had to deal with
I think
a
the
lot
top
of
end of the
season-
NFC
this
will
season
still
was
be really
great.
strong again.
I love this season.
The season was fine. I mean, it wasn't awful, but it was.
That's because
great.
people hate. That's because people hate watching good defense. That's real.
Hmm.
That's
I
really
like watching
it.
good defense.
I'm not talking about you. I'm saying royal we. We hate watching good defense.
No.
Everybody wants to see 40
Hold
points
on.
a game.
Let's appreciate something for a second. This was maybe a very mid NFL season, but only one team in the entire NFL had 2 losses or less, and other than that, it was like 4 losses, 4 like.
There's a decent amount of parity this year.
I don't think that was.
I think this was a pretty like the talent was not too shabby. We remember how many years we had like 1 win, 2 wins. Like, I think this was a decent. Like, it might be bad.
The Panthers became the first team in the 17 game era to win less than 3 games.
Yep.
Fun.
I
fact.
think this was a fun season. This was a good season, and I think schematically it was great. Seeing the Lions kind of run through the NFL while running the football, it's great. It's great football to me.
JP, speaking of great football to you, I feel like this is just your bread and butter here. Derrick Henry, where would he be the most fun next year, and what does his contract look like? What do you think? What is your prediction in terms of what the contract looks like for him?
Derrick Henry, in my world, you are a Baltimore Raven. I think that would kick so much, but I think it was kind of rumored during the trade deadline this year, Derrick Henry would go to Baltimore or Philadelphia. I get why Philadelphia would do it, kind of, but I also don't get why Derrick Henry would do it. Like going to Philly, I don't think Philly and Derrick Henry schematically fit very well. Philly is very much a gun run team. They are shotgun inside zone. Derrick Henry is more of an under center runner, and even at a pistol offense, which the Eagles really don't do. The Ravens would be a better fit. They don't have anybody healthy at the running back spot. I mean, you're looking at J.K. Dobbins, who tore his Achilles and will also be a free agent. Keaton Mitchell tore his ACL, will be fun, but coming off a torn ACL, we'll see. And then you got Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, who are fine specialists. Justice Hill was a special teamer and like kickoff guy, but had to be forced into playing the number 2 running back spot. I think Baltimore would be the most fun. I think it'd be the best fit. Outside of that, he could go within the division and go to the Houston Texans, but I think the Texans might be a weird fit, but I kind of see it with Houston. Their outside zone, Derrick Henry's really good on outside zone runs. I think like when you give him that runway to get going, like watch out. But contract wise, it'll be interesting because of course he has a lot of tread on the tires. We'll see. I'm genuinely curious to see what his market and what his contract looks like this year, because I think on one hand, he's nearing, or he might be at the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
Coming off a lot of carries in Tennessee, but with where the NFL is going, with gap scheme runs, finding abilities to move the ball in chunks instead of like the explosive 40-yard play, running the ball is going to be very, very important. And the teams that are able to generate efficient, effective running games without having like a Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson will be really important. And I think Derrick Henry will be very important to any of that. So his market will be genuinely interesting, but I really want him to go to Baltimore.
Yeah, in terms of his contract, I could see it being like a 3-year thing where the third year's a void year. just to kind of spread out that cap as much as they can. I don't know, man. What do the Bengals cap situation look like if they don't bring back Joe
I was
Mixon?
gonna say.
I think they're not. Isn't it kind of out this week that Mixon will not be back?
Joe Mixon's gone.
Yeah,
he ain't coming back.
That's
one that I'd watch for. I think that would be fun.
Can they bring him back and franchise T. Higgins?
They can tag T. Higgins.
That's a core, man. That is a that is fun for Joe Burrow.
You sign Derrick Henry, maybe. You can go.
I would get like a reliable number 2 behind him, where similar to like a Tajay Spears situation. But
Chase Brown. Chase Brown is that reliable?
Oh yeah, Chase Brown. Yeah. What am I talking about? Sorry, Chase Brown.
You go and sign Tahir Tart or Sheldon Rankins in free agency. You draft a right tackle. Hey, I can see it. I don't know.
People are sleeping on the Bengals right now.
I don't know if the Bengals are going to pay that much outside of the family.
Mike Brown's typically cheap.
No one's sleeping on the Bengals. They've just been so up and down. It's just like you don't know what to think. Every year you're like, this is the year that they're really good, and then they go to the Super Bowl.
About the Bengals? Who the hell said that about the Bengals over the past 20 years? It's been like 3 years.
I'm talking about with Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow came in and started playing out of his mind, then tears his ACL, and then they go to the Super Bowl. Like it's just this the whole time. What did we all think last year?
That was true.
I mean, they also didn't really miss a beat with Jake Browning. Like that was one of the weird things.
Relax.
That's actually a very interesting thing. Jake Browning in the offense looked effective because he was actually willing to go under center. That's the biggest question for the Bengals is Joe Burrow willing to work under center? He did it against the Niners in that big win when he came back and when he was healthy.
Talk about that.
That was one sentence. I'm out. I'm done. But then he got hurt again and missed the rest of the season. I'm curious to see if Joe Burrow is willing to work under center and make the game easier on himself because that unlocks, again, it's really hard to run play action and run the ball at a shotgun if you're not Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson type of runner. It's really hard to do that with effective offense. So the Bengals are interesting. I don't think they're slept on. I really don't. They're one of the best.
Oh, I think they are. I think as of right now they are. You look at the Good Morning Football crew. You're talking about our top 5 teams going into 2024 or whatever.
But again, how can
none
you
of them
talk
listing the
about
Bengals.
How can you talk about them? No one knows what the hell's going on. Joe Mixon's about to leave. Like
their secondary,
Burrow got hurt.
Their secondary was really bad last year. They were really young, but they were really bad. And this
is the first time their staff has really been picked apart a little bit since Zach Taylor got there. Like losing,
they just lost Callahan.
I mean, that could be a huge though. Like Callahan might be a huge loss for them. We don't know.
They promoted
from within. Yeah,
they promoted pitcher, and he doesn't. Brian Callahan didn't even call plays.
Yeah,
he was just in Joe Burrow's ear, which is what Dan Pitcher was.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, maybe we'll see. I'm just saying, like we have it. Like they've gotten benefit of the doubt with Lou Anarumo not taking a job, like him just being that stability for him and for that staff. I also am just curious. I don't know where y'all are at with this.
By the way, I think we're going to see a lot of that. By the way, where guys are just content with being, I'll be Dick LeBeau, or I'll just be, a really good OC. And I think that JP was ahead of me on this, for the past few months and whatnot. But I think we're going to see like, hey, we've seen plenty of coordinators throughout time give the head coaching thing a go, and it blows up in their face, and then they, not tuck their tail because, of course, if you get a chance to be a head coach, you're going to take it. But I think, we're going to see a little bit more of an influx of, really solid play callers and offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators be like, you know what, I'm chilling. Yeah.
There's so many good play callers who made a mistake going and being head coaches when really they just draw up plays. It's cool to just want to draw up plays. That's perfectly fine.
It's a different job. You might not be cut out for the CEO.
North Turner was a pretty good OC. He wasn't a great head coach. I think that,
Arthur Smith was a pretty good OC, not a good head coach. We've seen
Brandon Staley's not a good head coach. That he's going to be a great DC.
I mean, he was a good DC with the Rams. He took the job way too soon.
He's the greatest defensive player of all time.
But I'm saying that he's walking into a situation like that in San Francisco, though, JP.
He does not have Aaron Donald.
I'm saying he's
Yeah.
got a very, very
don't
loaded
think-
defensive
Yeah,
line.
I don't think
You've
that's a
got
fair
Nick
argument.
Bosa
I
and Fred
agree.
Fred Warner. Yeah, I'll say that.
Dick LeBeau had great defenses too. He had Polamalu, he had James Harrison, he had Lamar Woodley. It's gotta go both ways.
Yeah.
Not when Dick LeBeau did that for years. That's sustained success.
And he had great players the entire time.
Yeah, but it was sustained, continuous success. Brandon Staley had a good defense for 1 year.
Oh no,
And then
I
got a
agree
head
with you there.
coaching job.
He shouldn't have got a head coaching job for that soon.
It's different. I'm just saying it's different.
Sure.
But if you want to give up 6 yards a carry, then you hire Brandon Staley.
Yeah, that's the big worries. He came to the Chargers and their defense got worse, specifically their run defense.
His entire philosophy is to give up 6 yards on the ground because
Well,
hey,
and
we
also-
won't give
Because
up
he doesn't
40
want to give
yards
up.
back.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and also the Niners really kind of struggled against the run, like in pieces last year, so that would be terrible.
They primarily struggled against the run because of personnel issues. To me, they don't have a true nose tackle. They play 2-3 techniques. Javon Hargrave is a great.
They're
3
missing
technique.
DJ Jones back.
They miss DJ Jones. They really need to sign Tyir Tart or like a true like nose tackle. If you're gonna run Brandon Staley's defense, you need a real nose tackle or Aaron Donald, and they don't have either of those. And also, sorry, I just don't like Brandon Staley. It'd be a weird transition for Nick Bosa going from hand in the dirt for 5 years to stand up edge. We've never seen Nick Bosa drop into coverage.
Not saying it's a good thing, but maybe it'll get him to stop biting on everything.
Oh no, that'll happen more because now that he's an edge defender and a stand-up outside linebacker, he's gonna have to drop into coverage, and that puts more on the brain. Nick Bosa is a honey badger with a chainsaw. Go get the ball. He is not a drop back in coverage and read plays. He doesn't read plays. He just goes.
Yeah.
Well,
as we know, he doesn't read plays.
Yeah, that's why you get Fred Warner to make sure that whenever Nick Bosa doesn't read a play, Fred Warner's right there.
I love it. Well, we'll leave it there. We have some other stuff we'll get into on next week's show. A lot of off-season content we still are going to get to parse through here week over week here on the NFL Super Friends. But this was fun. It's a fun exercise. And Evan, do you feel better after all is said and done?
I felt
good.
I mean this sincerely. I woke up the next morning 100% okay.
Good.
I literally said to my best friend, I was like, I don't know if I can feel feelings anymore. I just was I was fine, completely fine.
Good.
It's been a crazy year, but yeah, I felt completely okay. It's been 2 weeks and I feel as if nothing happened. They're already talking. The 49ers Twitter is already talking about cutting Trey Greenlaw, cutting Kyle Juszczyk.
He tore his Achilles.
Dog. Well, no, I should say it's not 49ers Twitter. It's Larry Krueger, who's some idiot shock jock radio guy. But I'm just saying, we're already into the psychoticness that is the off season. So I'm over it.
JP, how many gallons of or what's your water intake again? How many ounces are you doing up there?
Oh, this is 1 gallon. I'm half, a quarter, I guess a third.
Is that for the full day, or have you filled this up before today?
Well, I was drinking it on and off. This is the second one, I think. Yeah.
You're going through it, man.
Just got to have a lot of water in the system. I live in Florida.
Dehydrated.
Yeah, I live in Florida. That's
true.
That humidity, it gets you.
There you go. JP, what can the good folks check out from you all across the internet this week?
Tomorrow, I will begin this process of releasing the next wave of NFL draft prospects being compared to characters or things that have nothing to do with football. So be prepared for that. It is a continuation of what I did last year. Everybody loved it, so I will be back again. Preview, I have compared players to F1 racers, soccer players, and a Mario Kart game. So be on the lookout for that. Outside of that, just see what I'm doing, see what I'm working on Twitter, getting a lot more into the NFL draft stuff. So having some fun.
I love it. Jarrett, what about you, sir?
Some quarterback stuff for USA Today. I did something very similar to what JP did in terms of his draft prospects. I did a quarterback list similar to that last year, and I'm actually going to be doing that soon. So last year I compared Daniel Jones to a ham sandwich. We'll see what I do with him this year. What else am I doing? YouTube stuff. I just did a thing today talking about where I think quarterbacks are going to land. Oh, I thought I had another thing. Yeah, NFL Combine coverage next week. That'll be a lot of fun. So follow that on USA Today, Behind the Steel Curtain, all the places to find me on the internet.
Love that. And what about you, Evan? Anything? Evan Sowards on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere else? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, go team.
Go team.
Follow Jarrett and JP's and Chase's stuff. Chase, I feel like everyone should be really just keeping an eye out for all of Chase Thomas content, just flowing like a river.
Like what is it? The river of Capistrano from Dumb and Dumber. What is it? Where the beer flows like wine.
Yeah, there you go. All I know is like you just got to be out here giving those 5-star reviews for Chase.
Mm-hmm.
And excited. Glad to see you guys again.
You too, man. And we'll be back next week. More NFL, all kinds of great NFL content during the offseason. There is no offseason when it comes to the NFL, and we will be talking about it on this very show. So JP, Jarrett, Evan, thank you as always, my good friends, and I will talk to y'all next week.